I wish to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land we are meeting on, the mana whenua, past, present and future leaders. Kia ora, my name is Jack Sanders and I've been at Wellington Free Ambulance for the last 12 years, the first decade on the road as a frontline paramedic. Over that time, I saw that my job and the stuff I brought home was having a big impact on my loved ones. Every night shift before work, Mum would send me a text saying, "Be careful, stay safe out there." She doesn't send these texts when I work in the office. So who are Wellington Free Ambulance? We're a free to the patient ambulance service at the bottom of the North Island in Aotearoa, New Zealand. We provide free emergency ambulance service to around 500,000 people. We answer over 100,000 calls for help and respond to around 60,000 emergencies. We have 10 stations across the region, 400 dedicated staff, paramedics, communication centre staff, patient transfer officers, admin and a team of volunteers. We have rural and remote areas in Masterton, an ageing population on the Kapiti coast, and a thriving metropolitan multicultural mix in Wellington City. We're pretty small compared to our Australian cousins, and we've just had our 91st birthday. Although we knew there was room for improvement, we thought we were a pretty good place to work. 2 years ago, Mike Grant, our new CE, came along. We began to change some of our thinking. This started a new direction for Wellington Free, He Waka Eke Noa, a canoe which we are all in without exception. We started thinking about who are we, where are we going, and who will come with us. We learnt that as an organisation, it's okay to be vulnerable. As leaders and as colleagues, it's okay to be vulnerable. We started to ask questions, real nitty-gritty questions, find out what it's really like to work here. We asked our staff, what's your biggest frustration? How can we fix that? What does it mean to work at Wellington Free Ambulance? What does it mean to your family? And what advice would you give yourself and your loved ones if you were starting again tomorrow? The feedback came flooding in, and there were some themes. And if you're going to ask questions, then you need to listen to the answers.
I've lost my husband, my friends, and I'm often an absent or tired parent.
Happy staff have more compassion for the patient.
I have 2 families, one at work and one at home.
This job can destroy your soul.
Not all of the feedback was positive, but it was open, honest, raw, and our staff were vulnerable. We wanted to ask more questions. What's happening at home when these tired, exhausted, stressed staff members leave our workplace? There's no way to completely separate work and home life. The two are interlinked, and it's really important that we acknowledge that so we can have some important discussions. The nature of our work means that at times it is a high-pressure environment, and that our staff will inevitably take that stress home. What can we do to reduce vicarious trauma? So we asked our families some questions. We had the feedback from our staff, but what were our families going to tell us? Again, the feedback came flooding in, and there were some themes. We knew if we were going to carry on asking questions, then we needed to listen to the answers.
My partner comes home exhausted and demoralised.
Workload is immense, often broken breaks, little time to process complex and both medically and emotionally difficult situations.
Over the years, lots of snippets of other people's trauma have become woven into our lives. It has a lot more impact and it's a lot closer than when you hear it on the news.
If the person I care about is involved in a traumatic incident like suicide, who does the family talk to? What support can we give our loved ones?
Wellington Free ruined our family.
We pride ourselves on our values. Passion, openness, caring, integrity, learning. It's what we stand for. But this was the feedback we faced. So what do we do next? How do we bridge this gap? How do we support staff and their loved ones, because you can't leave trauma at work? How do we come together to work together, to heal, to improve, to look forward? We have a Maori proverb in New Zealand, or a whakatauki. He aha te mea nui o te ao. What is the most important thing in the world? He tangata, he tangata, he tangata. It is the people, the people, the people. We had listened to feedback, but now it was time to take action. The key focus for working at Wellington Free is bringing people together to improve aspects of our working environment. So if we focus on the people, how can we work closely with families of our staff members and in doing so support staff and their loved ones? We started a Families Council, a group of family members from across the organisation who can work with the leadership team to improve things at Wellington Free. Their loved ones work on the road as paramedics, in the communication centre and the patient transfer service. I'll hand you over to Barbara, the chair.
Kia ora, my name is Barbara Gladding, and I'm fortunate to be a member of a family who have 4 family members working for Wellington Free. My first loved one is my husband, Rob, who works here. He's vocationally trained as a paramedic. Our son, Andrew, was degree trained. He's a paramedic as well. And his partner, Jamie, is also degree trained, and she works as an emergency technician. And our daughter, Megan, is a patient transport officer. And our 6-year-old grandson, Michael, has a uniform and he knows what the colours are on the shifts. So that's the family, all part of the organisation. My association with the ambulance industry started 1998, I think, and I worked with the Australasian Convention of Ambulance Authorities. And the whole industry has just changed so much. When Mike first started, he sent out a letter, I think, saying what he wanted to achieve in the organisation. And one of those ideas that I thought was really inspirational was the Families Council. And I thought that was something that was sorely needed, because it's an opportunity for families in the workplace to support staff, but through a structured dialogue, I suppose, a way of preempting some of the issues that might arise. And so when the opportunity came to be part of the council, I put my hand up. As chair, it's felt like a real honour to be involved. Leadership in that sort of situation, I think, involves a lot of listening. So we're known as the Families Council with Wellington Free Ambulance, and our purpose is to provide a link, a good bridge, strong bridge between the people who work here and their families, available to both the staff and the families themselves. We have also chosen a Maori name for ourselves, and that's He Whānau Puawai. He Whānau Puawai means a flourishing family. The vision that we all have is that we enable a flourishing family, both within households where there are staff who work here, but also as a Wellington Free Ambulance family. So the flourishing of that will require, I suppose, that people do work together, that we connect with each other, that we look after each other, that we stay healthy physically, mentally, emotionally and socially. And so that's what our success will be. For me, the value of that is that we have an opportunity to talk together, to raise issues that have come through other staff, through our own family members, and work through those. And Mike's been great in the sense that he comes to every meeting and listens to what we have to say. He provides us with operational guidance and advice, and we consider that as part of our thinking and talking. I think if we earn our place here, we'll become part of the furniture. And for me, that's what success looks like. Nobody will notice that we're here other than we're those guys who help bring families and staff together for events, for projects, for social contact, or we're helping the organisation navigate through some of the hard and thorny issues. We're still quite new, still quite raw, still finding ourselves, but it's an opportunity to start as we mean to go on and do a good job for the organisation and for our loved ones who work here.
He whānau Pōwai. So what have they been up to? Well, they've only been together for 8 months, but they meet every month with the chief exec and members of the leadership team. Reports from these meetings are submitted to the board. Over the last few months, they've created a handbook and a website, providing really important information and support for all family members. They've also alerted us to the dire state of the lazy boys at the main station. And this has resulted in new chairs being delivered, which has been well received by all staff. They're also working on some really important projects with us. Choosing a new employee assistance provider. It's really important that we look at this process through the family lens. Improving the induction and recruitment process, ensuring that families better understand the industry that their loved ones are entering. And they'll be working closely with us as we review our shift patterns. When we talk about people, it's all of the people, our staff, their families, our patients, and the wider community. But how do we ensure that we see people as a whole? Again, we look to our Indigenous people, the tangata whenua, to help guide us, to make sure that the Families Council, He Whānau Pōwai, is a success. Oh, is there a video there, Frank?
For me, success also involves acknowledging a broader context within which our family members operate. And I've learnt a lot from working with Maori people, and the model that Dr. Mason Jury calls te whare tapawha, which is basically a house that's got 4 sides to it. And when we consider people in their environment, we consider them in 4 contexts. One is the physical context, the body and how it works. The spiritual, so the spiritual is the wider, or the sense of being, the sense of spirit that comes with every person. Te hinengaro, which is the mental, emotional state, and the social context as well, which is the whānau context. And so if we acknowledge that a person is made up of interlinked connections along those lines, and we live in an environment where we're all interdependent on each other, we'll see that people are whole and that we need to support the whole person, the whole family and the whole workforce. Because if you tinker with one of those levers, something else happens. And people talk about a work-life balance. And for me, it's not a work/life, it's a work embodied within a life. So having people who can interact with each other, who can understand themselves, who can function as interconnected beings within themselves but also with others, I think is the test of an environment that they're in. If they're able to do that, the environment supports that. And that's what I'm hoping that the Families Council will be able to do, to work with the organisation to bring people together as whole beings, professionally and personally. For me, success.
So what's it all about? It's about the people and their experiences, valuing who they are, their emotional, physical, spiritual and family aspects. It's okay to be vulnerable as an organisation, as leaders, as people. Ask questions, talk to everyone, and most importantly, listen to the answers. You'll hear some amazing positive things, but you'll also hear some things that challenge you. It's those things that will lead to great changes. But they have to be sustainable changes. People have to be connected in every part of the journey. Managing change for better outcomes for our staff, families, and patients in the long term. This includes gaining feedback from people, staff, their loved ones, and our consumers. All efforts, focus, and energy about making a difference. A better world at Wellington Free. No decision about me without me. Thank you.